Hello, beautiful, and welcome to the Moms Talk Sex podcast with me, Mor Yelvington, your host. I'm so excited for this conversation today because it's really going to elevate your bedroom and your money situation. So I have the beautiful Yuliana here with me today. Hi, Yuliana.
Hi, Mo. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my story.
Thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom. So why don't we just dive in? How about you introduce yourself and let us know who you are and what you do in the world?
Yeah, thank you. Look, I am a conscious business coach, I call it today, but that's not always been my journey. I've been in corporate for over 25 years as a corporate strategist. I experienced burnout, toxic relationship, bullying, sexual harassment, many things, which then led me to the healing journey, transformation that I had for the last 25 years. And then I wrote it in a book. I have a book here called Unbecoming You. So I wrote it's semi-autobiography with self-help embedded to it because, when you write a book, you actually write it for yourself first before it's for the audience. So that's a bit of my story. In that side, on the other side, I actually came from Indonesia. My heritage is Chinese. I immigrated to Australia when I was 18. So when we talk about more about sex, we'll elaborate a bit more. But I have a lot of things to unpack because my background is growing up in a very small town in the 70s with the Muslims upbringing around me. I was educated in Catholic school. So there's a lot of things to
Wow.
let go.
That's I can't even imagine how confining that would be. So
It was.
what was that turning point in your life when you realized something had to change and shift?
Is this in general or just in my relationship side?
Does it go hand in hand? Sometimes I feel like it goes hand in hand, right?
Yeah, but I think one is the spiritual awakening first. So I call it accidentally, I had a skin clinic business back then. I'm a serial entrepreneur. So I had a skin clinic background. I went to a workshop, a business workshop, which part of the workshop was it's called quantum being. I didn't even realize like this was a real accident. I walked in, I didn't know what to expect. I tried to find out what is quantum being. The word quantum being does not even gel in my head. I had no correspond to whatsoever. It turned out to be a lot of digging into your childhood. Then I got to see a lot of the upbringing that had this inherent belief of not being good enough. So I felt very sick in the stomach at that time because I realized how I lived my life was about ticking the boxes of everyone else's boxes, including my relationship. It was a copycat of dysfunctional pattern of my parents. I was literally married to a guy that very similar to my dad in a way. You know how it works. So yes, that was the really big pivotal moment. And then I work out, and obviously in terms of relationship, I kind of question myself in a way, is this the life that I truly want to sign up for? What would I do if I woke up tomorrow and I'm 60? Would I look back and say that I had a, great life, amazing life? That's what I wanted.
Yeah, that's so powerful. A lot of times I don't feel like we do that and we just kind of let life lead us to these
Yeah.
places without actually taking control. And so
Mm.
you decided to make a pivotal moment, a change in your life. And what did you do?
Look, after I had the spiritual awakening, I started to do a lot of development. I attended regular meditation circle and everything. In one of the meditation circle, I actually had a very vivid visions. I saw Jesus and Mary, and they gave me a baby lamb. sign of a new life in this beautiful meadow, and they asked me, go and seek a new life. And that's what I did. I had to take a lot of courage to walk out from my marriage. It was a long marriage. We were together for about 17 or 18 years,
Wow.
and we had 2 kids together. It was a big rocking the boat. It was not easy. My parents refused to accept that I, got divorced. It is a word that does not exist in my culture. No
Yeah.
matter how bad your relationship, you stick with it. I know one of even my auntie, her husband, betray her multiple times openly, will take a woman home and everything, and she would not work out because that's just the way the
Yeah.
culture is. So yeah, and I got disowned for about 4 years from my family. That's the consequences of that. We made
Yeah.
peace. I think it's always the question is, I looked at my 2 daughters. Would I let them to have the same life? It's me, the role playing that I'm doing as a mother. This trauma needs to end with me. That's always what I reminded me. And that has been always my motto every time I face a very difficult time, or, facing all this. Working within yourself is not as glory as it sounds.
It's not. But I feel like it's so, everything you're saying just resonates so deep within me because I feel so many women out there, like you said, they just are too scared to take these moves. You have to be so brave, especially against all your upbringing, everything you know, everything you grew up. It's really strength. Like, where did you like find that strength inside you to make this move, even though everybody was against you, and essentially moved to a different country, right?
Look, I think moving to Australia by myself was a big part of that. Like the world or the universe prepare me for what's coming because, the story of the black sheep. I've always felt I was the black sheep in the family. I never really fit in throughout my childhood. I always clash with my mom quite a lot. We just have very different approach and perspective of life. Now, I think my advice as, woman, and I know it is very hard. I had to suppress my own voice for a long, long time. It's never about what I want. But what I would dig through is look at the answer into one question. And my one question I ask myself and I ask my clients, if you would die in a few years from now, would you still live the same life? And you already know the answer. But it will trigger something within you to really find that courage. I always say that you can have everything you want in life if only you have the courage to ask, to pursue, and to receive. And each part is as essential.
Oh my gosh, that's so powerful and so true. So how does this all relate to sex? Prior to prior to our interview, you were telling me that you're teaching a master class. Do you,
Mhm.
and that relates, I think, to the sex topic. So why don't we talk about that a little bit?
I think before I do that, I came from a very shy, very, introvert sort of person. I had a lot of work to get to who I am today, being able to speak in a camera and teach this topic. But let me share a very juicy part of the sexual life. I was in a very long relationship, and you know what you know only, right?
Yeah.
So I never had any personal pressure to myself. And it's really interesting because when we dig into the mindset thing, it was the upbringing into my surrounding that sexual relationship intercourse was so much just about the procreation. That
Yeah.
was it. And they say there's Muslim, there's Catholic, they're very similar in a way. I never had freedom to speak up when I was living in Indonesia, let alone to wear clothing that is above my knees. So that's how conservative the environment I was living in. And what I realized after my spiritual awakening journey was my mom subtly had implanted this belief that sexual pleasure is actually belong to a man only.
Yeah.
So I never really actually questioned that even. So where the story, I don't have to put the graphic into it. And I remember toward the end of my divorce, as I was working toward, within myself and finding all this courage and, finding my own self, if you like,
Yeah.
I start to question about my sexual life. I remember that I went to my ex and I said, we need help because I'm not happy.
Yeah.
But he was delusional about all of these. Obviously, you were fine for 17, 18 years.
Right.
Like I said, you only know what you know. When
Yeah.
you start questioning, things start to come up. So that's one of other reason why I got divorced. So leaving relationship after that, part of the journey of transformation, I actually work on myself as well. I work on actually finding out what do I want? How do I want to be, treated, be touched in the bedroom? I think as a woman, this is the part that it's important for us to be able to, how do you ask when you don't know what to ask? Now, about the masterclass, what I realized is I had a very accomplished career. I did, tender deal at work up to the tune of the $1 billion.
Wow.
But in my bedroom, I felt like my throat was like choke if I had to ask for what I want.
Yeah.
It takes a journey, but it's along with everything else. I don't think as a woman we will truly own our power if we don't own our sexual life. We don't own our voice. It's part of who we are. It's like you need to know what you want, but also you being able to ask for what you want. And that's everything. Like I said, from the bedroom, boardroom, in a table, everything.
It is so true. I do this work for 18 years now with women
Mhm.
healing the sexual trauma. And every time
Mhm.
a woman comes to me with anxiety, depression, low libido, insomnia, it's always related to the sexual
Mhm.
part of us. I call this the powerhouse. And so it's like if
Mhm.
your powerhouse is disconnected and you're not communicating and you cut off this so important part of you, you really cut off your true essence of who you are, because so much of that is your energy, your creativity, the juices that flows that bring stuff to you that you want. And so the fact that you were able to be aware of that and to notice it and to heal that within you is so powerful.
Yeah, and I think if you weren't even talking about manifesting power in a way, because the most powerful energy is actually the sexual energy. At the
Yeah.
time we have that orgasm, and at the time we really at the peak of that, another human being is created. We know
That's
this.
right.
So you cannot say there is no magic on that. There is a power of that. And if you look at the power center, in your sexual organ, this is where your creation, especially with the woman, I think the womb, where we birthing of everything, is your powerhouse.
Yeah.
It's our ability to be able to create and produce something is so magical into the world, whether that's through your business or through the offering that you have, or even just being you.
Yes, and the thing is like you're saying, around the world, we have so many, and everything around us is telling us, sorry, my cat, that you're not allowed to be in that power. That it's not good. That's shameful, that it's bad. And so you have all these women that are just cut off from that energy, and you can call it like a conspiracy, but I really believe like it's because they know that if we were in our power, the world would change. It wouldn't be the way it is right now. And I think that's the mission that we're all in, to really bring that energy, that feminine energy, that sexual receiving energy back to our planet, because that's why it's just so out of alignment right now, and off balance. And it's really to just balance out the feminine masculine energy, because that's really what we're cutting off, right? Essentially, it's the energy, that feminine energy of our planet, not just, I feel like, the women, but also of our earth, right? Our earth is also the
Yeah,
feminine. So we're just cutting
that's
that
right.
off. Yeah.
And it's really interesting because if you dig into the history, it's never like that before. During the troubled times, before the religion was invented, I call it invented because it's a human invention. Um, but women actually holding a lot of energy in the world.
Yeah.
Woman is the power center that actually bring in. And what's interesting as I teach more about asking. Asking is actually not as much about the word and what we truly ask. It's actually about the power of being able to stand in your power and receive.
Yes.
Now, we talk about a lot of, in my world, burnout, hustling, and, women trying to make it happen, right? This is so against our natural biological way of creation. We should be really standing in our power and receive being able to be supported, to be acknowledged, to be respected. We're the queen in the world, and we need to accept that. And if you are in a relationship with a healed man, awakened man, this is my relationship now. I know that it doesn't actually, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? It does not minimize him for you to actually
Yes.
stand in your power. You only
Exactly.
feel like you have to reduce your power when you're in a relationship with a man that is in the wounded feminine side of him. And you end up with someone that wants to power play with you, like over who is in charge, who's like all this about control and everything. And also, a healed and awakened man knows the more he gives to his queen, the more he receives. And we're going back to that sexual and wealth. You actually really standing in your power is not just for you, it's for the relationship. I remember Spirit said to me once, the more we love each other, the more we be there in each other and we give enough from the healthy boundary side, the more money will just flow. And it's been the case with us. Remember, we are creating, look at how the biological system works. Woman meant to receive, then give birth. That's how the flow of energy and the creation in the world.
Yes. Yes. I love everything that you're saying. So, what would you say to the women listening that maybe feel like they can't speak their truth in a bedroom? What can you tell them? Like, what kind of tips you can give them to start being able to speak up the truth, even to these powerful women that, like you said, maybe are making millions but not receiving anything in the bedroom?
I think everything is a practice, right? Everything is about this, my book, I call it the unlearning, uncover, and unleash. Everything is always evolving in that. Like you need to understand first what is triggering you. When you want to ask your partner or even your kids, even as small as, can you help me with taking the trash out? Sometimes we as women struggle with this,
Yeah.
our little this. But try to feel it in your body. Like, where is it? I think most of the time when we talk about the feminine energy, It's because we're so disconnected to our body. If you want to bring back your feminine energy, try to reconnect with your body, and that's give your body the chance to speak, to be filled. So when you want to ask something, and if you start feeling like, whether your throat choke or your knots in your stomach, that feeling sick, I can't really say this, that's actually your moment to step up. And then once you feel it, ask yourself a question: why am I feeling this way? What is the biggest fear that starts to come up? If you dig out deeper within yourself, you'll know most of the time the answer is because you're scared of the rejection. What if they say no? And what does it mean if they say no? What does it mean to you? Because this is what's important. And then you come up with the story. And the story could be something like, then I feel like I'm not good enough, or rah, 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 rah. Or it happened to be, one of the time when I was little and my parents, this. So this story, allow it to bubble up, and then see that this is your moment to be able to heal and then reconnect. And 9 out of 10, this is just inner child healing that's need to come up. Sexual is very much something that should be healthy process to adulthood, but that society doesn't teach us that way. Instead, we should be hiding taboo and all these things that put the shame associated with sex, and then that's associated with asking.
Yeah. And essentially, it's shame about our body and who we are, because it's a natural reoccurrence for us to enjoy our body and enjoy pleasure and receive. And so, what that translates to is your body is shameful, sex is shameful, you shouldn't enjoy it, cut that part of you off, right? That's exactly all this stuff. And so,
Definitely.
really, the more you're tuning into your body, the more you connect to your body, the more you heal and do the work and the journey, which, like you shared, you've been doing it for probably 20 years, right? Healing yourself. I think every woman here that I interview, it's really about about really realizing that what you're dealing with is not working for you, and really shifting it. And if you're in a struggle and overwhelm and going crazy, it's like that's not normal. That's not your normal state. And that's why it feels so overwhelming. So with maybe you can share a little bit about your class that's coming up and how they
With
can
the
sign up for it.
Yeah. So look, the masterclass is something, like I said, it's more holistic. I took the framework from when I did a tender. I realized I was working in a corporate. I did this tender. I did a project for weeks, day in, day out, weeks in, weeks out. And when we won the tender, I was big, obviously. It was a $1.8 billion. But what it changed me was I just felt like this, wow, like I realized something that is within me that I didn't have before. And I just thought, when you thought you know yourself, there's another layer that you didn't know.
Yeah.
But then I identified that gap, how I still feel the struggle to ask for what I want, especially in the bedroom. And I already took nearly 9 years of, journey from when I left my relationship to where I got with my partner. So I started to work within myself and see what this framework looks like and understanding. So there are like 7 steps in this framework. I call it the Ask More framework, and it's about asking more than yes from the boardroom to the bedroom. Because many times, even when we get the yes, when we ask for something, there is also a part of settling. It's like we ask for what we think we could get instead of asking for what we truly want in life. And that's what the masterclass is about really owning your power of asking. And it doesn't matter what the outcome is. The outcome could be no, but no is in these circumstances. But understand that no is just a reflection of where you at the moment. And it's how do you then progress to be able to get more out of life? Because you don't get what you want. You get for what you have courage to actually ask, pursue, and receive.
Yeah.
So if you are interested, this masterclass is, in couple weeks times, and you can find out a bit more on my website, julianafrancy.com/masterclass. And yeah, I look forward to see you all there. I look forward to support women. I think it's the era of women rising to support each other. And as every woman rise, I think we give permission and validation for other women to rise because we could say she can do it, I can do it. Not from the competition, but more from empowering that, we have the ability to be able to do it as well.
Yes, I love that so much. So you guys listening, I would definitely go and check out this masterclass and Yuliana and everything else that she's talked about. Of course, we'll have links for you in the bio to check and share. If you have any questions or you want to have more information, just reach out. I want to thank you so much for this vibration rising conversation because I feel like it definitely opened the heart and the soul for a lot of awarenesses to drop in for the people listening to this conversation today. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and we'll tune in with you again next week. Bye.